That's mad though, isn't it? We've done it. We're here, like we're now officially into double figures.
10 episodes.
10 episodes.
I'm absolutely buzzing.
That's an achievement though, isn't it?
Yeah, honestly, like, who would have known that we got this far?
Like, I'm sure there's a stat somewhere that says that most podcasts don't make it past, is it 5 episodes or 3 episodes?
I think it was either 4 or 5, I think, because I put it up on Instagram story, I think, when I shared
that we're officially
that episode.
Almost double the way past that now.
I reckon we're in like top 5% of podcasts that actually get made.
We're into the longevity now.
Now we're into it. Yeah,
we're like the Simpsons version of podcast before you know it. We're like 300 episodes
We're pursuing through wedding season. That's the main thing. Like, actually not struggling to find time to do
I feel like that's the hardest battle, isn't it? If we can find time now, arguably our busiest. Like, once it gets into the winter, dare I say we may even go weekly. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, maybe we do a special at some point.
Maybe a Christmas special. We can wear Christmas jumpers and like we can have like mulled wine.
Get a couple of guests on and have like a drink or something.
Fun,
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, we could pull crackers and stuff. Anyway, it's not Christmas, it's summer. We are Wedding Catcher Co, and this is our 10th episode.
Yes, welcome back. Episode 10. If you followed us from episode 1, well done you. Yes. If not, go back and listen to the rest of them. Otherwise, you're not a true fan.
That's it. And if you are new here, you're joining us at a fine place, but definitely go back and look at the others and see how much we've grown in these last 10.
Yeah, the good thing is they're not like time-specific episodes. Like you can pretty much listen to them in any order, apart from like the little bits of catch up at the beginning. Like there's lots of information for everyone in all the episodes, I think. So.
I think so, and I think that's probably one of the biggest things is even though that we are only 10 episodes in, it's going better than I expected. If that's probably the right word to use, is that I always knew that podcasting was going to be a slow burn. Yeah. It was going to take a time to, we have to keep showing up, keep making episodes, and hopefully people would find value in it. But even some of the feedback that we've had already from other photographers, other videographers, I had a meeting yesterday where my client said that they listened to it and it's actually changed the way that they're going to do part of their day because of something that I said in an episode. Yeah, that absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah. Imagine you go, I've got this wedding coming up. It's going to be a bit naff. I'm not really sure about it. And then you do a meeting with them and they're like, I heard you talking about this wedding. It's going to be naff.
You have to leave everything remarkably general on the podcast. So we don't know that. But I think to be only 10 episodes in and find and to think that, or to know, because we've had kind of people message us and say that the advice that we've given on the podcast has made a solid difference to how they go about things on their wedding day, or it has made a positive impact on the business or the way that they film or photograph weddings. That's really, really cool. That's been
the top bit of motivation for me, is that when, like you said, when we first started this, I wasn't sure at the beginning of this year, to put this into context, I wrote down all the list of things that I was doing just everything that I was doing, basically. So whether it was like business related or a little bit of podcast or like little projects with friends, that kind of thing. And anything that didn't bring me joy or money, I was like, okay, I'm going to get rid of this year. And this was one thing that pursued, because I was like, this, after recording the first couple of episodes, really enjoyed it. I think this is going to bring me joy. And then maybe one day it will bring some sort of income, but like, it's not the main aim of it. The main aim of it, I guess, was for us just to put our names out there and to also help other people and have that sort of conversation between.
Definitely, yeah.
And obviously me and you both listen to podcasts that are photography and videography related, so we wanted to do something similar but different in our own way.
And I feel like I don't want to kind of sit here and kind of the whole thing be too kind of self-indulgent, but to a degree, I feel that we've done that. Like, and sometimes it doesn't always happen. You start something and then it kind of wanders off on a path that maybe you hadn't expected. But for the most part, all of the things that you said when you messaged me about, like, shall we do this podcast, is I feel that we've achieved that. To be a podcast, let's say, run by a photographer and a videographer, we've both learned a lot about what each other do in our jobs, even though that we've been to the same weddings together doing our jobs. Yeah. And we've helped maybe inspire some people in our own industries, but I'd like to think that I've maybe helped some videographers out in the same way that you've maybe raised some awareness to some other photographers who maybe now would treat videographers differently or look for different things in the videographers that they shoot weddings with. Yeah, definitely. And that was part of why we did it, is we wanted to do something for both photographers and videographers that was more of a combination thing, rather than, you have to listen to this podcast about photography and then this one about videography. I listen to a lot of photography podcasts, to be fair. But not to get into like numbers every single time, but we almost have 700 plays on that's insane. And that's just across the platform. So on YouTube, we've got another couple of hundred on top of that. So, verging on 1,000. Almost to 1,000, which is insane, which is mad, because obviously when we started the podcast, we filmed every episode, haven't we? But I think it took us to 3 or 4 episodes in before we started with YouTube. So a few went up at once, didn't they, on YouTube? And
yeah,
there were people asking for us, saying that they wanted to consume the podcast that way, and so that we've delivered on that. But we've always kind of kept it very much a filmed version of the conversation we're having. We've not really, our camera's there. Hello, everyone that's on YouTube, but we've not really kind of sat and presented in that kind of like. No,
it's more just a bonus thing, isn't it? If you wanted to have it on in the background.
If you're unfortunate enough to want to see our faces, you can go on YouTube and do that. But I didn't expect the YouTube numbers to be anywhere near the level that they're at as well. Like, I expected people to hopefully subscribe on Spotify or listen while they're in their car or whatever. But for people to take the time to actually pursue that on YouTube is a little bit mad.
Yeah, and I mean, I put it on the group saying where do people expect your podcast to be, and YouTube did come up. So I think it's worth having on there. But like you say, and I think also having it bi-weekly has been realistic for us.
Yes.
Obviously, I think people would probably consume more if it was weekly.
I think
I don't think it'd be realistic.
Good 3 or 4 messages, or I've had people in person saying that the bi-weekly is not enough for them. We've left them wanting more, which I think that's the best thing. A good way
sometimes.
To be.
Yeah. That's like with TV shows. It ends best when you want more.
There we go. It's taken to 10 episodes again. Max has made a few appearances in the podcast, and he's decided now that it's now the time to.
He's making his 10th anniversary appearance.
So yeah, hopefully he'll pipe down in a minute. I've lost completely my train of thought now. But yeah, with YouTube, like I would say, is to think that equates to 20% of our listeners, really.
Yeah.
That's quite remarkable.
That's pretty great. I haven't actually checked the numbers of YouTube, so don't quote me on that. But I'm sure we've got a few more on YouTube, which obviously adds to the numbers. And like, it's just it's amazing to hear, because these things you kind of start and you're like, if I don't advertise this well, or if we just do this, what is going to be the point? If no one's listening to this, I probably would have given up by now. By episode 5 or 6, if I saw, if nobody had messaged us saying, "Oh, it's been really helpful," I'd have been like, "What are we doing this for?" But, like I said, people have been posting about it, people have been messaging us about it, and that's been really motivational, and people have been listening, clearly. So.
I think, that's the main thing, is I think me and you would have carried on to meet up and probably had, and continued our friendship the same way that we did, or done that more socially. But the fact now that we've got this kind of scheduled in time that we do get to catch up, once every few weeks to record, and also they just realising that there's people and also people that we didn't know before we started this. There's people along that journey that have messaged us, and continue to message, saying they listen to every episode and they're taking things away from it that, people that don't have to listen. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've got, a couple of mutual friends who kind of we know and work with, who'd expected to listen. Like, my mum would always listen. Do you know what I mean? Like, my wife's been a really big supporter of it as well. She listens to every episode, although she knows absolutely nothing about photo and video. So it's quite nice. Those people were kind of a given that we knew would listen, but to have people out there that didn't know us at all when we started and are now regular listeners, that I find is really
it's really nice to hear from people, even people I've looked up to previously as well, and just like people whose work I've seen but don't really know, like reaching out and just being like, this is helpful. Like, it's a good thing to hear.
I think so. In summary, I think we're saying is we appreciate you all. We appreciate all the love that you've given us, and that is probably a large reason that we are as motivated and as happy about where we are at this 10th episode stage as we are, and don't let it stop. So if you're someone that's listened to the podcast and haven't commented or haven't hit subscribe yet, I really think that those comments really do make such a big difference to us. And also share it with your friends. If you're enjoying something that we've said and it helps you out, then tell the people in your circles about it, and hopefully they can take something away from it as well, and the podcast will continue to grow, and maybe by episode 20 or 50 or something, we'll be that those numbers will be getting to some pretty big ones.
I mean, we're definitely in it for the long term now. This is going well. We're enjoying it. Like, it's not just, bear in mind, you see 2 hours of the day, we spend the whole day together just having a chat and a laugh and stuff, and that also makes it as well. So this is not just like us just trying to make some promotion or make some money. Like, this is genuinely us hanging out, and then you get to hear like 2 hours of us hanging out. While Max also kicks off.
You can tell that he's obviously, we've been too busy chatting and we've been neglecting him, which is why he's playing up. 1 second, people. Chris can feel. I'm going to go and find out what he's trying to kill the sofa for.
Okay, so Max is currently chewing the sofa. There's a ball underneath the sofa, of course. There's a ball underneath the sofa.
This is the dog that has like 7 balls, but he still only wants the one that he can't get, which is under the sofa.
I know he's bringing him into the room.
He is really going to annoy me in this episode. So we apologise if you have an audio phobia of dogs barking, that this might carry on for quite some time.
But we're in it again for another 10. So we're really looking forward to that and further on from that. And it's been really, really nice to be able to offer informative stuff, also just something to listen to on the way to a wedding or while editing, and also like not filled with lots of sponsorship stuff and things like that. And I'm not saying it will never be that, because down the line we're probably going to need to do something, but at the moment, like, it's just been nice that it's all been very casual.
Yes. And I think that's been half the appeal for us, or a lot of the people, the feedback that we've had is the fact that, you know, it's been likened to that time when a photographer and videographer at a wedding would sit and chat over dinner, or it is really conversational, and that's the way that we've kept it and like it to be. Yeah. And I think it will stay that way, even if sponsors come on board or we start to have guests and stuff like that. I still don't want it to get any more formal than it is now.
With that said, this episode is sponsored by Student. No, it's not yet.
One day.
Yeah. Reach out, Student Drive. Hi, Max.
He's currently sponsored by Maximilian instead. He wants to make himself known.
But today we're just going to be catching up. So it's the middle of the year. Yes. We wanted to do a kind of a mid-year catch-up in terms of like what we found the year has been like so far, what our intentions were at the beginning of the year. Are you meeting your goals? Are you filming the weddings or photographing the weddings that you want to film? And like, how do you feel it's going so far, basically?
It's mad, I think, by the time this goes out, so this will go out in about a month's time, so we're pushing the 1st of August by then. Yeah. So we're definitely way more than halfway through the year. And I think only at that point I would have started to photographed half my weddings.
Yeah.
Like at the moment, I'm halfway, as we sit here now, it's the first week of July, and I've done less than half my weddings of the year.
Well, okay. Yeah.
Well, I think you're probably in a quite different space to that. You're probably over the halfway point.
I'm pretty much dead on half, I think, now. Or maybe by the end of this weekend, I'll definitely be dead on half. Yeah.
I think it's going to take me till pretty much the end of the month to get to my halfway point. I know that I've got a really busy September and October coming up.
Yeah.
So that's I think is terrifying me a little bit.
That's opposite for me. I don't have anything.
Like, I feel that I've definitely, my editing past starting to creep up already. The weddings that, by and large, that I've done have been great. I know there's loads more good stuff to come. So I think if I can have half as much fun as I've had so far in the next half of the year, that side will be fine. But I do think already trying to balance how I'm going to kind of manage to conquer over that wedding, that pile. This dog's going to really annoy me if I'm not careful.
Do you want to take a minute?
I think we should.
Yeah, let's take a minute.
So there we go. We're now back from, we've played ball with Max for 5 minutes and hopefully pacified him enough that he'll sit down and not bother us for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, it's candid, but we couldn't have him barking in the background for the whole thing.
It's when the squeaky toy came out, that was too much for me.
He's nudging my knee with the squeaky toy.
We appreciate the break. So yeah, back to our conversation anyway. So I'm not at the halfway point yet, and so I'm a little bit fearful about managing those edits. But for the most part, I am shooting about 8 or 9 less weddings this year than last year, and that kind of is definitely making me feel good that I know how burnt out and kind of tired I was around kind of the end of August last year, and I'm hoping that by the time I get to that point this year, I would have shot. I've still shot a good number of weddings, but not so much that I'm literally like kind of at the the real depths of my energy levels and enthusiasm levels. So that kind of makes me feel excited that I'm going to get through this year. I've got some really good bookings and hopefully have the right level of energy to match those days. But I feel like over the years though, in terms of my gear that I shoot weddings with, I'm kind of similar to that now as well. Like I remember definitely having that kind of thing at the start where I thought I needed every lens and like multiples of everything, and tried lots of kind of really kind of over the top equipment. And now I kind of feel that where I am about 10 years in, that I probably take less than I ever used to weddings. Yeah. But everything that has got real estate in my
everything is needed. Yeah.
Actually gets used.
I'm the opposite. I've got so many lenses, so like 3 cameras, so many lenses. I use all of them, to be fair. Like on a wedding day, I'll normally use all of them. But I am getting to a point now where I feel like I've got everything that I could possibly need. Yeah. But it has taken a while. I feel like because we shoot as a couple, and sometimes, both of our favourite lenses is 50mm, so that already means we've got to have 2 50mm basically, and that kind of escalates from there. And then things like
and I guess like speeches, you use in seconds, they kind of bring their own kit, but where you work with Kate, obviously your kind of pool of kit is both of your kit.
You almost have to have 2 of everything, in a little bit. We haven't got 2 of everything, but it feels like you have to have that sort of compromise in the middle between having like 1 of every focal length, and then we've got the A7 IV, which crops in 1.5 times for in 4K. So it's like then we have to worry about that as well with our lenses, But yeah, no, I feel pretty much the same. Like this year, I feel like I've got everything I need in terms of gear. And I'm quite a gearhead as well. Like I'll just go out and buy the latest camera, but I'm not really feeling like that at the moment.
Which is quite, I guess maybe you get more comfortable. And I think that's what I found in the end, where maybe there were shortcomings in the way that I shot things, and I thought that buying that new lens was the answer to it, or getting those extra few megapixels was going to make the photos better. Where I kind of feel now that, you know, that there are definitely better cameras on the market than the ones that I'm using.
Yeah.
But I've kind of felt comfortable with the kit that I'm using, that I know how to use it inside out, and that, you know, any kind of error in that is probably on me and not the kit.
Yeah. Once you get to a certain point, it becomes like you can do anything with this. Like you got two A7 IIIs, haven't you?
So I use two A7 IIIs, the 35mm 1.8, the 85 1.8.
And they're not even the latest things, especially that 85.
My 85 makes some crazy ass noises as well. Like occasionally, like if I turn it off, you can feel the glass kind of drop and move as the camera moves. And then sometimes the AF motor will just kick in and just go until you press the focus button, and it will figure itself out after that. So it's definitely, you know, it's got some battle scars, but it's still the sharpest lens that I own. Yeah, like kind of, you know, it still absolutely delivers. And you know, despite that, you know, hanging from a hold fast, it gets knocked into doors or kind of bumped and stuff like that. But
it survives
all the time that it still lives and does its job, then I'm more than happy for it to carry on. Yeah.
But at the same time, I'll disagree with people that say, oh, you know, if you're just starting out, it's okay to get a cheap camera. I think if you're just starting out, you're already limited by yourself as it is. So get the best camera you can get, because you're already limited by the fact that you're just starting out and you haven't got experience in certain things, like maybe how a wedding day works or something. And so why are you thinking about the limitations of your gear when you've still got to think about how the wedding day works? So, you know, I think there's a certain level of gear you do need to get, especially if you're just starting out.
I think the same thing though, as soon as you get into this to do it as a job though, is whether you've been in it for 6 months or you've been in it for 6 years, you are still selling yourself as a professional in that industry.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, and obviously as you move on in the industry, you charge more, and you kind of go up, and people expect to get something more for that, but you still are marketing yourself as a professional, and you need to have gear reflective and use to do your job effectively. And, you know, just to have poor equipment and then use that as an excuse to go, oh, well, I didn't really have this. It's like, well, that's not an excuse. You still need to deliver at a certain level.
But I think I said this to you not long ago. I went out and bought the 50mm 1.4 recently. Yeah. Because I love 50mm so much. I pretty much shoot most of the day on it. And I was finding that I had the 55 this is getting really techy now, isn't it? I had the 55 1.8, but because of the crop for active stabilization, it ends up being like a 60 or something, which is slightly too zoomed in for what I need. So I bought the 51.4, and I found I've been shooting a lot at 1.4, but now because I was shot a couple of weddings at like a lot at 1.4, it made me realize actually I can stop down to like 2 and it will still be fine. Yeah. Whereas when I was shooting a lot at 1.8, I never really thought that way. So now I'm really conscious about aperture, and I feel like getting that better gear has taught me I don't need to use that all the time. Does that make sense?
But I think in some ways, in the other kind of fit though, it's nice to have that as an
tool. Option. Yeah, exactly.
And you know, if you find as you move into the winter and that you're shooting maybe darker weddings, that having that extra stop rather than take the ISO from being what's kind of on the levels that you're comfortable with over to dangerous levels. Yeah. To have that 1.4 there might come in really clutch and help you.
Yeah.
And I feel like even again, like the look of a lens though, like if you pay for that 1.4,
it looks so good.
It looks so good. Yeah. Like kind of, you know, the way that the fall off is in it, or just the feel of it, or less, you know, in photos like abrasion and stuff like that. Yeah. I think you kind of do feel the quality of that lens, even if you're not, you don't have to use it always at 1.4. Yeah,
just the lens itself, it does look so good. But I find like you say, you don't necessarily, it's always a tool, but you don't necessarily need to use it. Yeah. Like with the cameras that can film 4K at 100 frames now, so you can slow everything down 4 times. Why are you doing that for every single shot? It's a tool. It's cool for like the shots that you'd want to slow down, but for every shot, that is.
But don't you think when you first get something like that, it almost is like a kid with a new toy?
Yeah, yeah.
You're like, because I've got this feature, I want to use it. And
that's what I mean. I shot 2 weddings at 1.4, and I was like, you can't see anything in the background.
Like when you buy your first drone, it's like whether their venues looks aesthetic, looks pleasing from the air or not, that they're getting a drone shot because you've got it and you want to kind of or almost assert yourself as like, oh, I'm at this level now. I've got my drone, and you need to use it. Where once it kind of becomes commonplace in your kit bag, you just kind of use it, don't you? And you find it in the end, you use it for what you need it for, rather than kind of showing off that you have it.
Yeah. And also I found that, like, having just been on holiday, we caught up on that on the last episode. Yeah. But I like to have some gear for like going away as well. Yes. And there was a point where I used to take all of my cameras and lenses and everything away with me, and I say all of them, but like a few, you know, a camera and like 2 or 3 lenses. And I thought maybe I was taking it too seriously. So then I stripped back to taking only a few things, and then I'd switched to a Fuji. And I know you've just got the Leica as well, which probably in the fall off. I think you may be, just happens to be sat on the table.
We'll talk about it in a minute. You finish your piece and then I'll cut in on this,
No, but that's kind of where I was going with it, is that I bought one of those Fuji X100 Vs because I just feel like you can stay in the moment more with it. Something about it, because I'm not worrying about zoom and things like that. I'm literally just getting it out, taking a photo. It still looks better than my phone because I'm not a massive fan of phone photos, how they process them, the focal length, that kind of thing. And I don't really have to go home and edit them, which is something I really struggle with when I go on holiday, is I've got to get back and edit those photos. I can just put it in a picture profile and
the film simulation profiles in the Fuji as well are lovely.
They're so good.
Really, they're really pleasing. You don't feel that you're not getting anything by not editing them.
So I did a few weddings with just that. Holidays with just the Fuji. But I actually did take my Sony away to Turkey. And I think I've been missing it a little bit, you know, having the 24-7 in, just being able to, because you know when people go on holiday and you see those shots and they're all shot on a phone camera, it's all exactly the same focal length, the same shot of just them like standing looking at the camera, and you kind of think, you know, I have the ability to do something better, but I didn't bring the tool.
See, I went on a similar road. I very much, like I've always taken pictures, you know, even before I did this as a job, and even since I still have that urge to take pictures, but I knew that I've never taken like my work camera, should we say, on a holiday with me.
Okay, that's really interesting.
I've always found that if I've got them in my hands, I'm in work mode, and I wouldn't be able to take my Sony's away with me, have it in JPEG and go, I'm just going to take some nice photos. No, I'd always have that, I want to take photos. Or if I'm somewhere really beautiful, rather than being in that moment with my wife or appreciating what it is, it'd always be, how many photos can I take of this? Or can I do this? And then, again, knowing that you've got loads to edit from your holiday when you get home, because I'd want to shoot them in RAW, I'd never gone down that road. And then I went to some really nice places and just took my phone. And I was quite satisfied. Like you said, same focal length, same photos, edit them on like a little app and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it seems a little bit sad that all I've got is these iPhone photos from some of the amazing places that we've been.
When you know you could do better and still stay in the moment.
Exactly that. Yeah. So then I kind of that balance of wanting kind of a camera that wasn't a work camera, which would give me a balance. So I went down the Fuji route as well. And just over a year ago, I bought the X100F.
Yep.
So the one before the V, took that to Norway with me last year. Really enjoyed that freedom, like I say, just, you know, straight posting picture profiled kind of JPEGs to my phone and posting that way, or just having that little bit of an extra quality.
Yeah.
But I still found when I went to New York with it that there was still something quite missing from it. Maybe I was used to that quality of the full frame from my Sony's, and going to the crop, I was still feeling like, well, I'm making the effort to carry a camera with me, but I'm maybe not getting the return on it that I'm expecting from, you know, I want to use my phone.
Yeah.
So then kind of, you know, looked into it. How is, you know, is there a way that I could find myself buying basically a full frame version of the Fuji, better quality? Then stumbled on the Leica.
You say you looked into it. I reckon you had that on your radar for a long time.
I didn't actually. A friend of mine had a Q2.
I thought I remember you saying it's like a childhood.
So a Leica, yes.
But
the Q, I've got the original Q, so it's called the Type 116. So this is the original Q, and the Q3 has just come out. So ever since I started photography, I always admired street photographers that used Leicas. You know, that idea of like a manual focus kind of rangefinder, small camera. Tried a rangefinder earlier in my career and never got on with it. The idea of kind of using the rangefinder system, because I'd always use SLRs, felt really alien to me. But I still kind of like this kind of idea of a Leica. I love the look of film photos through the Leica. Friend bought Q2, which are 48 megapixels again. I don't get too ticky about it, but for me that's well overkill.
Yeah, especially for holiday
snaps and personal snaps. Then the Q3 just came out, and that's a 60 megapixel, all in a very similar fixed 28mm lens body. And it never dawned on me that the Q2, there must have been a Q1 before it.
Yeah.
And then stumbled on it looking via Instagram, realised there was a Q1, realised that they're actually kind of sensible money for Leicas on the used market, and they're a 24 megapixel sensor. So pretty much the same full frame sensor, which I have in my A7 IIIs, which for me, that kind of megapixel level in terms of
it's a sweet spot, isn't it?
Is an absolute sweet spot. You know, with the 28mm, that look of the, like what we said about having good lenses, like the 28mm Summilux on the front, the fall off and the look of it is insane. So to kind of have all that.
Yeah.
And also, I think as well, like we were saying about, you know, I kind of feel like over the last couple of years, maybe I've come a little bit further with my photography. I've started charging more, kind of feeling more comfortable and feeling more established. I kind of felt like I don't treat myself that often, maybe. So to have something quite indulgent to use as my everyday camera.
Yeah, I think you're quite strict of your expenses, sort of thing. Like,
I don't buy that much. Yeah, in that kind of respect at all. So
the way you talk about when you buy something, you talk about it as if like that's the purchase of the year, sort of thing.
And it very much is like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure. And some people probably just say I'm tight, but I always want to make sure that if I'm going to buy something, that I'm going to get my worth out of it.
Yeah.
I don't often go, I'm going to buy this kit on a whim and see what it does.
Yeah.
I'm also quite methodic about how I buy things. I do lots of research before buying things, and definitely looked at way too many videos of people using Leica on YouTube before I
imagine there was a lot of them
before I pulled the trigger.
But it's a cool camera, and the colours out of it straight out are very nice as well.
And also, but quite different to my grade. So I feel like it has separated kind of my work from like the personal photos that I take.
Yeah.
But I still feel satisfied enough to kind of shoot it as it is.
I like that as well, and that's why I didn't really like editing the holiday photos when I got back, or personal photos when I got back, is because I'm not like, I don't edit photos every day. Like editing photos is something I do quite rarely, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so I can never make them look the way I wanted them to look. So having straight out of camera JPEGs that looked good were automatically, like, for me, I didn't need to worry about what preset do I put on it. But Josh sent me some presets a while, like a link to some presets to buy a while back. And said like, try using these, and they've been so good, and it's made me want to take photos like in RAW again, so that I can try and like edit them when I get back. And I think having that different style, it's like, oh, this is the stuff I use for like my work, and then this is the stuff I use for like
and
preset.
I think that's quite important. Like, you know, as naturally as kind of you progress through your career, your tastes are going to change, or kind of your preferences are going to change in the same way that they do, you know, with music you listen to, food that you like, you know, kind of choices that you make. But I kind of feel like, especially with weddings, when you book couples maybe a year, 18 months out, you can't really drastically change your work style too much, because people have been sold on a thing. And don't get me wrong, I'm still very invested and very excited about, I believe in the grade that I use, the style of weddings that I shoot. I don't want to change that. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't want my photos of my life or my holidays just to look like my work photos. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go and put the same grade over them and it just become, oh, that's a Weddings by Tom photo, but it's of, you know, a street in New York, or my holiday, or my dog, or whatever. It's nice to have that separation. Yeah. But I think having a camera like the Leica has allowed me, I don't feel like I'm working when I'm using it, because it's not my work camera. Yeah. But I still get that excitement of taking photos. Yeah, exactly. Which is the core reason that I became a photographer, is because I like taking photos. Yeah. It doesn't become a chore taking photos on holiday anymore. And I think that's what it is all about, isn't it? The excitement of doing what you do without picking up your camera and being like, oh, this is my A7 III that I use every single day. Here we go again. And I also think, you know, that the core of all of it is it should be fun. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I used to shoot on Nikon cameras for a long time before I moved to the Sonys about 4 or 5 years ago. But I would never say that my Sony cameras are fun. They don't excite me to use them. No, they're not fun. Yeah, certain cameras. Like when I used to use like my film camera at uni, it was still like a magical piece of thing, and the sound that the shutter made was was you know, like absolutely magical, and it kind of gave you the warm fuzzies every time you fired a frame on it. Yeah. My Sony cameras don't make me feel like that. Sony cameras are just functional technology. But at the same time, that's it. Like, I've still, you know, I went through the Fuji. I looked at lots of other things before I went to my A7 IIIs, and even all the Nikon stuff I was using before. I've still never found a camera which works for me as reliably, consistently, and just performs the way that my Sonys do. Yeah. Like, I know that if I hit that IAF button, it's nailing focus. Yeah. And my client can be running at me, and I can be at f2, and I'll still get more usable frames than not. Yeah. And so I wouldn't get that from the Leica, but on my holiday I've got time to slow things down or to do these things. On a wedding day you haven't. You need stuff that you can just literally go to, and it gives you that result. Yeah, no, definitely. Right, swinging back round to weddings then. Yes. So we spoke at the very beginning of the year about like workflows and systems and having things in place so that when you get into the wedding season, you're sort of not having to worry about, you know, replying to certain emails, like chasing people weeks before the wedding, that sort of thing, like having that all ready for you. That's just completely gone out the window for me. So we kind of have workflows, but so our business is changing a little bit in the fact that like Kate is going another direction and is taking a little bit of a step back in the business. She did a lot of the emails, so now I'm like taking over a lot of that side. And it's been a whole learning process for me in terms of getting back into the emails, remembering to remind people
like weeks before there's time to book in a call and stuff like that. And
because she's been doing it for quite a while, hasn't she? Now, so it's not as if it was like a trial thing. She was managing the admin for a good few years.
She's been doing it for a long time. Yeah. She's been doing it, for as like many years now, like maybe 4 or 5 years potentially. But the fact that we never really had an automated workflow because it was her that did everything, it kind of worked. But Kate is still very much involved.
Yeah.
But there's just certain things that have been sort of responsibilities that have been brought over to me again. So I'm finding that pretty interesting. I'm quite enjoying it, to be fair, being part of the whole process again. I feel like I'm taking ownership of like the very beginning to the very end.
I guess though, like I don't want to speak out of turn or kind of it's your business, but obviously it's always, and it's something which I find eternally fascinating and kind of could talk to you for a lot longer about, is that I always find it really fascinating to run a business and kind of share that with your wife. And it must be really hard sometimes to kind of to not bring work into home life.
Yeah.
But then obviously, like you said, kind of she obviously works her own job. So you work in this business full time, but she's not only trying to fill her plate with her own job and the worries that come with that, but as well as kind of look after your business.
Yeah.
Like, as kind of, that's a lot of plates to spin. So in some ways, I imagine it's nice for you to feel fully in control, but at the same time, it's probably nice for her to kind of clear her plate and be able to focus solely on her own career, or know that that's kind of left in good hands with you.
Yeah, and she's still going to shoot some of the weddings for me, but I think a photographer said to us the other day, your husband and wife team, it's like, yeah, it's like your home, your life must be weddings. And it's like, it's hard for it not to be. Like we try for it not to be. It is, but it is quite unhealthily directed towards business, because I sit there all day and edit, and then Kate will come home, or like I'll reply to emails in the morning and sit there all day and edit. Kate will come home and she'd be like, should we sit down together and reply to some emails and do some like admin and stuff? And I'm like, I've been doing it all day. Like, and yeah, she's been working all day, but on something different. So she gets back home and has the passion and the excitement to do the stuff.
Yeah, she's almost changing hats.
Right? Yeah, changing hats. But I've been sat there in the house doing that same thing all day. So that's where it became really difficult. And I think this moving forward is going to be a positive thing for that separation as well, because the separation is really hard, especially when I think we enjoy it as much as we do. It's hard to just be like, we're not going to randomly at 7 o'clock be like, right, time to get back to work.
But don't you find as well, and again I can only speak from kind of how I would see it as an outsider, is that inevitably, if as you're getting busier and your business is growing, if she's managing a job of her own, it's hard to kind of concentrate on two things. But then if something slips and an email doesn't get replied to, like it's really easy for you to go, this is affecting my business and make me mad. And it's hard for that not to go into your home life then, and kind of
exactly.
And especially when you work from home as well, you can't like leave it at the office, because that's like the other room on your landing that isn't your bedroom. And so I think hopefully I really hope for you that once you can kind of get used to that new task, that maybe going on holiday was a good thing to kind of have that time away from the business a little bit for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that you kind of separate things back, and then your home life and your work life, although you're shooting weddings together, it's not as intertwined because she's not doing some of the other tasks as well.
Kate is really busy, and I said to her, like we had the chat about it, and I said to her, I do understand why. There may be some inquiries that are a couple of days late to reply to, whatever, because you're well busy. But I don't want you to be in that situation. I can take that off your hands. I don't want to step on your toes, but we need to set these boundaries of you are doing this and I'm doing this, rather than us sort of just doing a wibbly wobbly. And because it's not a employee and employer relationship, that's really hard to set as a husband and wife. I think is whose responsibility is it to do what, and who takes ownership of certain parts of the business and how it's run and stuff. I think it's a hard sort of line to cross, basically.
But again, you've said multiple times on this podcast that now, like you went from a time probably a few years ago where you were unsure whether you were going to stay in weddings, but now with the changes you've made, you're fairly set that you are going to be in weddings for the long haul. But also you also want to continue being married to Kate and having a nice life with her for the rest of your days as well. So I think it must be a difficult conversation to have, but if it means that you guys can have a better life together, free of kind of it being of work becoming kind of the third person in the relationship, it should mean that you can grow your business without having to kind of run things by her that she doesn't have time for. But at the same time, she reaps the reward of it, of having home life husband Chris rather than kind of co-worker Chris. When you're sat on the sofa in the evening. So
it's about just not having those conversations anymore. Like, did you see that inquiry? Yeah, should we take it? Or like, is this, how should we reply to this thing? And how should we, instead, I just do it. I don't have to ask permission. That's it. Like,
but it's nice to always have someone there that has got insight from doing that admin for 5 years, that if you're not sure how to handle a certain scenario, you could say to her in the evening, oh, what do you think we should do about this?
Oh yeah, that's definitely.
And to do that as a one-off rather than it be a nightly occurrence.
Yeah. And she has a very good moral compass, and often, well, not often, but sometimes we'll think the opposite as well. And that leads to really good conversations about what we should do going forward with a certain, response to an email or something like that. So it's really nice to have someone around who knows the ins and outs of their business, who can just like literally be like, Kate, like, I've got this, what do you reckon we should do to this, basically? So,
yeah, especially if you sat with something all day and kind of mould it over in your head.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can be so close to something that it's really hard to see what the logical thing to do is.
100%.
But to kind of see someone that understands the business but sees things more black and white, can sometimes probably be a really welcoming thing.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm looking forward to seeing where that will go. I've loved it both ways, but I think, it's time that, like, I'm doing less weddings. I'm pretty much only I've ditched all my corporate work. So like that is my identity now, like in terms of the business this is my wedding business. This is my baby sort of thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes.
Yeah, and I think I've probably found, or I've rapidly realised over the last few months that I need to go through a similar thing. Like obviously, I've spoken a few times on here about having a price increase and looking to take on less weddings, which potentially should free up some more time in my calendar.
Yeah.
But I feel like I picked up some commercial work during kind of the end of COVID time to help kind of fill that gap of less weddings happening and things like that. And some of that's continued to grow a little bit. And I like I like having variety in what I do. So I'm not always doing weddings, but I do found that now my editing pile maybe is starting to creep up because those midweeks are filled with maybe an odd bit of commercial work, and that's got a shorter deadline than weddings. And then, taking on things like the coactive that I run with Katie, doing the podcast with you, is it all takes up time. Yeah. And I think, like you said, that maybe like you at the start of the year of writing that list of things that bring you joy and things that you don't, is I need to kind of sit down and maybe have that clarity moment with myself and go, well, how much does the commercial stuff fill my cup?
Yeah.
But the payoff is how much time does it take up for the money that actually pays me? Or is that just adding to my stress of my editing pile going up and the rest of it? And maybe it is time to cut some of the commercial stuff loose that I maybe do.
I think I've
done out of politeness, maybe, or the fact that I've enjoyed doing the work for the
We've
client.
done it for so long,
but it's always a series of 1 hour shoots which don't pay the most.
Yeah.
But even an hour shoot is still a half an hour edit, and it's still a 20-minute journey there and back. So to do that, what you only get paid for an hour still ends up being a 3 or 4 hour thing. And if I could spend that 3 hours at my desk for half a day instead, that's probably half of a wedding edit. And, I
do think obviously you do have to have some sort of variety. Well, you don't have to, but like it's nice to have some sort of variety. But like you say, for me, what you just said about the corporate work was the exact reason that I didn't like. I sort of ditched it mostly, is the fact that it was always quite last minute shoots. It was always like midweek, so that's a load of editing time gone. And doing the corporate shoots, like because they mostly come in during the summer, is then making the summer really stressful and busy, and making the winter harder because I'm behind on wedding edits and having to do them. And often, like you say, it's not filling the cup as much as a wedding would anyway. So I could ditch probably all my corporate work and only take few more weddings maybe, and make up for that. And it's a lot. I wouldn't say it's easier, but it's more structured because I don't know what it's like for photo, but for video, corporate work it seems to me a lot harder in terms of there's a lot more back and forth. Like I found the clients back and forth for like 6, 7, 8 months of just changes, and then it's not what you even made, and then it's like, is this even what me anymore? And I found that I was making the client's vision more than I was there to make the client's vision more than I was there to make something that I'm good at.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The end, or you feel like I feel like as wedding photographers or videographers, we get quite a lot of control because we impress a style on people. They very much book us for that, and they're led by our creativity. Where as a photographer, they're looking for someone that maybe they built a relationship with, and then they give you a brief and you fulfill it. There's sometimes a lot less room to put your own stamp on that or do whatever. And not for all of my commercial work. I know some of it is, one of my clients particularly are really kind of encouraging of me kind of doing my own thing and kind of
that's good,
elaborating to their brief. And I think they're maybe the clients that are more liable to go, I want to keep this. Where the stuff which is much more like headshot work or kind of like product stuff, which I feel like anybody could do and
that's
make
the thing.
Is
it bringing you joy? Is it making the most of it? Probably.
And I feel like in the start of the year, when I was maybe shooting less weddings, it was nice to have something to keep me busy. But now, say that work's continued into the summer and the weddings have come up, it's finding that it's much more of a drain on my time that I don't need that.
Yeah.
I want some time back. Yeah.
You're losing your voice.
I feel like I dropped some water and it got stuck somewhere halfway through and I couldn't shift it either way.
But yeah, so yeah, this year has been great in terms of like, we've spoken about it before, but in terms of the kind of couples that we're getting as well. Like I know you felt the same about like, we've really narrowed down, we've spoken about narrowing down your style to the kind of couples that you want in our vetting couples
that was a really early one, wasn't it? Like episode 2 or 3, something like that. Yeah.
And I feel like putting all those in place a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever, of chatting to, you know, every client before booking them, setting really quite specific expectations and, you know, branding ourselves in a very specific way has really helped. And now our couples like really want us for who we are and not just because we're the token video people. And
it's nice to see that you've seen that kind of pay off quite quickly.
Yeah.
You know, where if, you know, sometimes obviously we went longer in advance, it could be a year or, you know, a year and a half before you really see that transformation. But to start making those choices and within sort of, you know, 4 to 6 months that's starting to change the way already, then you've, you know, believe that it is possible to work like that now is really, really encouraging.
Well, we started this a long time ago, but like I'm just saying that's what we said it 4 or 6 months ago or whatever, didn't we, of what we've been doing. But yeah, that it does help, and it, you know, it doesn't take that long really. If you redesign your website and start putting like little keywords, like obviously ours is like fun or energetic or little things like that and we're noticing that the people want that, and they're like,
Max is trying to dig a hole through the floor now. He's really not happy today.
Digging a hole into the floor. Is Ro down there?
Yeah, he's going to be down there in a minute.
Yeah.
Heavy on top of him.
But yeah, so, and our couples are definitely, when we say to them, oh, what is it you want from video? Why did you book us? They're saying all the things that are on our site and the things that we've said that, you know, the people who want to book us want. So like, if we ask in the couple, we're not getting, oh, we'd like a lovely shot of the flowers or the dress or something. Nobody's saying that to us because that's not how we advertise ourselves. And that's really good. And we've really enjoyed that. And I think as we get more expensive, I'm finding the photographers that we work with are starting to change into and this isn't across the board at all, but this has just been sort of what I'm noticing this year, is that the photographers that people are booking are completely the opposite to us. And like I said in the previous episode, I get on with 99.9% of photographers. Most photographers are really good with videographers anyway, but I'm noticing that like the couples are saying, oh yeah, the photographers, they're taking really editorial, posy, like, you know, magazine shots.
It's weird.
And they've hired me for the exact opposite.
I find this crazy because I'm finding for the most part that I'm working with new videographers this year, or videographers that I've never worked with before, but most of them are still very much in the style that I make. I'm not finding that at all, but I don't think some of it also is that editorial thing is still trend led. So I think maybe some people are, and maybe where videos, maybe people want that video. I still find it kind of odd that, because I would always look to book someone who was similar. That people are looking at it going, okay, well, we can get this in for our photos and we'll get some like stunning kind of more posy portraits. But then it doesn't matter if they don't get any candids because we've got Chris there who's going to make a killer film of all of our guests having fun. And I like, it makes sense why you would not kind of do both. But maybe because it's always been that way for me that you'd always book something similar. That why they're not doing that.
It's so strange that like one day I'll turn up to a wedding and it'll be just like a couple who just like supernatural, fun around each other, like with the photographers doing shots but not posing or directing at all. And the next day I'll turn up to a wedding and they're like making a serious face at the camera by a window, like with these like multi-thousand pound dress on or something, and it's like they're there for like 20 minutes by this window trying to get that one shot. And this is two completely different weddings.
Do you find though in those moments that you're doing, you are just kind of still being part of the couple shoot as much, or you're like kind of filming that bit, or you're more inclined to go, okay, I know they want the fun stuff of the guest while they're having this, so you're filming less of the couple in those kind of forced moments and just doing more candids with other people?
I'd say I sort of know when to call it a day. So with, like, for example, in the morning when the bride's ready and she's fully in her dress and like you want to get her by the window of a bouquet or whatever, I find that some people are there for a long time. So I'll be like, I just need one shot. I'll get that one shot and I'll leave. Like that'll be it.
Just mad, because I've photographer, that's exactly how I am. Normally because there's not time. Like, you know, you've normally got a wedding coordinator tapping their watch going, they should have been with the registrar. You know, the registrars won't wait. They've got another wedding, or you've got dad to get in, or bridesmaids to get in, or you need to get over to the ceremony. And maybe because I work by myself, I have to do lots of things, where if you're working with a team of people or two people, that's less of an issue.
But that's how the weddings I've done with you have worked as well. But I'm finding like the brides are getting ready an hour early just to get that shot nailed, and it's like I've not known this before.
I find that crazy.
Maybe it's not to do with a price thing because we're not exactly expensive, but maybe it's just I don't know, maybe it's just like you say with the trend, maybe people booking the trending editorial style photographers, and that's who we're working with.
And
at
I
this
suppose
point.
if those photographers are doing a really, really good job of dictating or, you know, educating their clients in the lead up to the wedding that, you know, you need to be in your dress one clear hour before ceremony so that we can get these moments. And if they value, you know, lots and lots of those portraits pre-ceremony, I guess that's okay for them, and it's all different. But I still find it a really crazy thing.
So strange
that someone would want a really high upbeat, energetic film from you, and then have kind of something really slow and cinematic and editorial from their photo. I kind of, like you say, it would look like you're at two different weddings.
And it does. Like, I mean, I literally showed you earlier a wedding that I did not long ago, and the difference between the video I made and the photos that the photographer delivered. The photos the photographer delivered are much more like, what would you call it?
Dramatic, editorial, kind of whatever you want to use.
And my video was like a really upbeat, like, and we worked together amazingly. It was a proper fun day. Like, we really enjoyed it. It's just so interesting to see the differences in style, and the couple have chosen those differences.
And I find it really odd because, like, we'll use the wedding that we shot together, like at Berry Court, Caroline and Christian's wedding. Like, you look at their film and you look at their photo, and you can pick out the moments I've taken photos of that are very evident in your film, or they come from a very similar place, like almost to the point that you could look like we are working under the same banner. Where I just find that so odd that if you showed somebody both who didn't go to the wedding, it would be like when you showed me that wedding earlier and I wasn't there at all. It's kind of like, this is creepy. I don't know what to believe.
So was it like this, or was it like
they did like cheering and dancing in one moment, and then kind of like, you know, like rubbing each other's faces and on the border of tears in the next moment? Like, I find that mad. I really do. Like, it's
really interesting to see, even from my perspective, like following these photographers and being like, wow, your photos are so different to what I've delivered.
But I find it odd because you think that if it was happening to you, that maybe I would begin to see that the other way, is that someone might want a really cinematic film. You know, that lends into maybe the more emotional parts of the day, and like then a more natural, you know, or they don't. Or,
like you were mentioning earlier with videographers that set up more of like a scene where it's like, okay, you're going to walk here, look at her at this moment, look back, but I
do get, it's like maybe a little bit of that with some songs, just maybe because they're not getting it from what I'm doing, but then I've always sold myself because I'm very much sold on the fact that I don't post people. But normally my couples, that's one of the reasons they love me the most is, we don't want to do that thing where we have to pretend to, you know, to like do this and do that.
So in the same way, they're not going to hire a videographer that does that then, are they? In theory. but who knows?
But you think, but then if you're saying those things to your couples, then they are going and hiring a photographer that looks like that. Like, I just find it bonkers. I really do.
It's strange. It's not a really bad thing. That, to be honest, it's something I've noticed a little bit of a change, and I'll you know, the couples that do book those kind of photographers generally still end up really fun for the other bits that maybe aren't the couple shoot, and like the really serious bits is like, you know, they have a big bridal party, and you know they spend a lot of money on alcohol and things like that, so it ends up being quite a fun wedding anyway.
But it's not even as if I go to, if you say to a couple, they tell you, we've booked, you know, X photographer, and you go and look at their Instagram or their folio, and they're only showing like really fine art stuff. So it's not as if they are taking candids, but they're just not showing them. Like you're saying, when you physically get to the days with them, that they're all about those portraits of those brilliant moments. But they're maybe not even, it's not even as if they're putting that kind of fun stuff in the gallery and just not showing it because it doesn't seem to be online with their brand.
Won't be taking it at all. I mean, that's quite rare, to be fair. It's only happened once or twice where that's happened. But like, I feel like, some photographers will just have a focus on just those really set up like couples, the groups, the details, and then leave out the candids. But I've noticed a trend also in like they're bringing along a second photographer whose job is just to get to candids on the day, and I really respect that because I think that's obviously really, really important. I think to most people is getting those candids. But
I find the idea of seconds really, really interesting as a whole. Maybe because I was one. I did a second shooting job a few weekends ago for Emily, which was really fun. I really enjoyed being a second. And it's not something I do a great deal of anymore, just because of, you know, kind of the time that I'm not shooting weddings. I maybe want some downtime or whatever. But you know, I'd seen her work, really liked it. The description she put up when she posted the second shoot, it looked like a cool venue, fun couple. And I was like, I'll go and do this. And I really enjoyed the idea of being a second and not having that pressure of having to deliver certain things. But I still worked just as hard to make sure that I went and got those candids and did, you know, the things that I needed to do. But I don't think it still makes me want to use seconds anymore. Like,
so I'm really surprised that you don't use second. I think it kind of works with your style in particular, because it's like you say, like you limit your group shots. You only spend like 5-10 minutes on the couple shots for reception drinks.
Yeah.
So that still gives you an hour and a half to get candidates anyway. I don't think the couple's missing out on too much by not having a second with the style that you have, right? Yeah. But I think more often than not, there's 2 photographers on the day now.
I think I've noticed that from looking at other photographers, it seems more of a trend that people are, or I see more people posting looking for seconds than ever. But I think there's definitely a whole episode in this as well, because I was thinking about this when we were doing our last episode, the kind of the photographer versus videographer thing. Yeah. And it's something I'm going to ask you in future, because I feel like a lot of times I see videographers, there's more of a need for a second with video. Yeah. Just because the amount of stuff, like you say, the amount of stuff there is to carry, set up, and the rest of it is, you can't be filming something if you're in another room setting up 2 other cameras, wiring people up, and the rest of it.
Exactly.
So, but then it is a second shooter in video. Is that role needed much more as an assistant rather than an actual shooter? Are they much more like a carry and setter upper than they are an actual person there?
So, I mean, I'm a massive advocate for second shooter for video, because like you say, it's those little bits of like setting up and packing away and things like that. But it's also like, if I'm with the couple, it's all the way we advertise ourselves is a lot of candidates, but we want to capture those couple stuff as well, and I can't do both at the same time. Yeah. And whereas I'm not saying it's this easy, right, for photo, but whereas you can go into a dinner room and take some snaps of it, some wide angles, some close-ups, and you're sort of done.
5 minutes.
I'm setting up a gimbal. Yeah. I'm doing the wide shot, then I'm changing, putting on a 50, doing something for the close-ups, and it feels like it's a bit more of a process. I don't want the couple to be missing out on candidates while that's happening. And the other thing is, where there's a trend in there being 2 photographers, I say to the couple, if you've got 2 photographers, then I recommend 2 videographers, because more often than not, those photographers are going to split up, do 2 different things, and if there's only one of me, I'm going to miss one thing that they're doing. Basically.
Especially even, there's only moments like that, I think, where I feel like I really miss a second. That whining you can hear is a very sad Max, because we're not playing ball with him.
It's the drama.
Today, you've had the whole episode of this today, of this damn dog. Anyone wants to buy a dog, I'm joking, I love him to pieces, I wouldn't, but he's testing my patience in this episode. Yeah, like it's those moments, like between like bride and groom prep, sometimes you do miss out on some stuff at groom prep, or particularly in a ceremony where there's someone looking, that reaction shot back up the aisle as I'm maybe at the top shooting the bride, and if that groom does cry or react particularly kind of emotively, I do miss that, because that's the way it is. And that's something which I do kind of wrestle with a little bits of time, going, well, I do feel sad that I've missed that. But at the same time, do I feel sad enough that I want to pay someone to come along for a whole day for those 2 small moments?
What is stopping you from doing it though, as an add-on? Is it the extra editing?
No,
or is it?
No, for me, it's purely trust.
Surely it's
two things. Okay. Like to find someone that I think I've never found someone that I trusted enough that I know that I could just go shoot at my wedding, and they would shoot it in a similar way enough to me that I would do it. I think if I did it, I'd want to have a regular second shooter. So almost someone on the book that I always shot with me. Yeah. So I could build that relationship. I could give them feedback at the end of every time so I could make a better wedding with them. Yeah. And there is another point, because he's really annoying me and I've forgotten. So that's the most of it. And also getting in my way. I like to move a lot. Like throughout a wedding, I like to move around quite a lot. Yeah. And I'd always worry that you're
going to be in each other's or something.
In each other's way.
Yeah. Especially if you haven't worked together a lot before, you're not going to know necessarily where each other are going to be.
Yeah. All right, let's try this again. I feel like we must apologise. This is really starting to annoy me now. Like normally, if you'd listened to that along the way, Max has normally had his little squeaks and roughs and stuff, but today he's been exceptionally needy.
Yeah. So that's all right. He's a character in the pod.
Thank you for persevering with us. But we'll get there. So
he's had a bit of a lonely moment.
We've been going for a good while now, anyway. So I think in terms of where we are at 10 episodes and kind of halfway through the year, I think we wanted to just kind of do a little bit of like a highs and lows, kind of best thing, worst thing about
can't call it that.
How it's gone so far. And we'll see. I can't call it highs and lows.
It's used in another podcast. Haven't you heard it?
It has. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
That's why I called it best worst thing of the year.
There's just another word for it.
The highs and lows. No, of course.
So are we going to do both of us first, or do you want to do both of our best and both of our worsts? Or
you go first. Tell me both. Yeah.
I think they're both kind of quite general. The best thing I think for me is one of those things that we've talked about is I finally feel that I'm at a place where I am making probably some of my favourite work that I've ever made. Yeah. And I'm turning up to weddings now, and even if they're maybe not at like the most astounding venues, I still feel like I'm making the best out of every wedding that I'm going to. I really feel that, like before I'd come away from a wedding and feel disappointed and feel that maybe I feel like I could have done more.
Yeah.
Where more often than not that I'm walking away this year going, do you know what? I did give that couple everything, and I feel like I've done the best job that I can.
Yeah.
And as a creative, sometimes I spend most of our times hating on our own work and always feeling that we could have done more. I've actually had 2 or 3 points this year where I've walked away from it and gone, do you know what? I'm so proud of that. I almost can't believe that I made that photo.
That's a huge place to be.
Or
yeah.
I kind of feel that, do you know what? With the weather, with the situation, with whatever, I know that I've made the absolute best of everything that we've done.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I've walked away from weddings so many times over other years, and kind of like you said, you give yourself that debriefing in the car going, oh, if only you'd have asked them to do this, or I've only been brave enough to say, let's go out again, or let's do this. And I kind of feel like I'm at that point now where I've been doing this long enough that I'm kind of confident enough I don't feel kind of that my couple will think less of me if I say, I think there's more left in this sunset. Can we go for a bit longer? Or can we just nip back out again because the lights got better? Or can I make you sit down in your dress? Or, but before I'd worry that, she'll definitely say no because you'll get dirty. But now you're like, I kind of feel got more confident to go, just what's the worst that can happen? That's like no.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that that's a really nice place to be. And I never want to feel like I'm settling where I am, but I feel proud of how far I've come. That's
you're putting 100% into everything. And coming from a place where, as solo creatives, we are our own worst critic, to come away from a wedding and be like, yep, I've done everything I can. And to finish the edit and be like, 10 out of 10, cracking, all good. Yeah. Especially from a situation where I find weddings, especially when you've got a queue in the middle of the summer, once you've delivered, you have no time to think about just how much of an achievement you've just done. Like you've shot a wedding, you've edited it, you've sent it to them, they love it, that's all good. But you get the email and you move on to the next one. That's it. Like that's straight up.
Yeah, and on the face of it sounds like quite a small thing to say, but I feel like it's such a culmination of so many things.
Yeah.
Of kind of stuff that, like you said, has been a long time planting those seeds to get to a point where you're getting couples that you feel comfortable enough that you can you can have that kind of rapport with, that you feel that you don't feel mean asking them, or they're so much on the page with you that they're looking for things out of you that you already want because you're that kind of in sync. And it's been a really long road to get to that point where I kind of feel like I'm finding people that are kind of like the actual people, like the kind of the pinnacle of what I wanted. That I kind of feel like that's a really nice feeling to kind of feel that you've put hard work in and it's paid off.
It's a really good place to be, and you've reached where you want to be as well, which is nice. And now you can sort of not cruise, because I guess there's always some sort of journey to go on and thing to do next.
But it's where you can climb even higher.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like figure out how you can improve more. But then if you're happy every single wedding you're doing, that's the aim, right? Just to be filming the couples you want to film, and to go home at the end of each day thinking, yep, they did a cracking job that time.
And I feel like probably the worst thing is probably kind of stemmed off of that is, for every bit as I feel like on the day I'm amazing, like I'm doing as much as I can, I'm doing a kind of an amazing job for people, and I feel really proud of that. I still feel that maybe on the back end or the business end, maybe the admin end, that's become more evident that even though like Ninja has saved my life, I don't know how I work without it now, that I'm still looking at better ways that I can improve that experience. And I'm still finding that bit's probably letting me down, and that doesn't sing quite as loudly as the rest of people's journey with me. And that I've always wanted to say that whilst I don't think that I'm the best photographer out there, I make people feel nice, and I want their whole experience of me to be good. And I feel that this year, because I've got busier, and like I said earlier, with the commercial work coming in and the rest of it, that some of that side of stuff is slipping. And that's been the worst thing, is not feeling in control, I think, at that end.
I think that's easy for it to happen at this time of year. I think there are ways around it, like you say, shooting into workflows and things like that. But I also think that people have, in a roundabout way, people have come to expect it as well, because I know when booking our suppliers for our wedding, they will all end up great in the end, but there were some that took a long time to respond, and you kind of thinking, Jesus, is these people still doing my wedding sort of thing? And I know that is a kind of thing, because I'll talk to people like before the wedding, and they'll be like, oh yeah, we still haven't heard from this person who we messaged. I'll be like, don't worry, they will turn up.
Yeah,
they're probably just really busy.
I don't want to be that person.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
As the worst thing goes, it's not that. Like I feel like in terms of kind of the upbeat, enthusiastic, hardworking person that turns up on the day, I want that to be there from the original kind of the initial email the whole way through. And I feel like at some point I'm just not doing a very good job of keeping up.
You think there's a point from like 6 weeks before and then onwards where you're like, you're 100% have their attention?
But it's that kind of gap in the lead up. I feel like, or if things go wrong on the day, like we were saying in a previous episode, with if you have bad experiences, or photographers bad, if someone says things more than once to you, it's probably you, and it's not just them being idiots. I kind of feel that it's like that, I could educate people better. Like you get to a day, you do a sparkler shot and they're like really short sparklers and you think, oh, if I'd just told them this, or I've had a lot where you have that petal confetti and it's like, if I'd told them that paper's the best, they'd have had that, and kind of feel like, and it's not my fault at all because some people will always do what they want to do, but I kind of feel like I know all this stuff and I just haven't communicated that, and I could have made their wedding go from a 99% to 110% with a few kind of simple changes if I'd have just given them that benefit of my experience at the right time in the journey. Yeah,
that makes sense. And that's, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head with something I was going to mention at some point, is that I've been trying to also make that journey better as well. The journey between the 12 months before when they book and the 6 weeks before when you finally get back in touch, it's like something needs to happen in the middle.
Definitely, yeah.
And it's going to have to be like regular emails that are going out with little bits of information and like just a check-in sort of thing. And even though it's automated, you can make it sound like it's not, and also it can be helpful to them as well.
And that's it. Like, I feel like I'm getting there or as friendly and as lovely as my couples are today. Like I feel like I'm being welcomed not only by my couples but by their families even more. Like you arrive and they go, oh, you're Tom, I've heard so much about you, or they do follow. I want that to be like that the whole way through, not them. The only relationship they have with me is what they see, that what I put out on socials, or if they listen to this or something. I want that almost to be a conversation with them, and hopefully by kind of prices rising, doing some less weddings or losing some other little bits along the way, so I can focus even more on my couples. That will correct itself.
I think it's really rewarding. Even this year, I've been trying to focus more on individual couples and like spend a bit more time on those little bits. And I think, like I said to you, like before we wouldn't stay till sunset during the summer because our package is until the first dance. And now I'm a lot more like, if there's a sunset, I will stay because we've done less weddings. So we're able to focus more and not get exhausted by doing it, sort of thing. And I think that's really rewarding because afterwards you feel like you've done the best of your ability rather than you've done what you're contracted to do.
Yeah, but as a creative, I think that's huge to walk away and feel satisfied. Yeah. Well, I know that even probably a couple of years ago, I'd walk away from jobs going, I really hope the edit saves this. And I felt, and I probably had done a great job, or they were always happy with what they made. But I think from a personal point, I'd always, like say, give myself kind of a talking down in the car and go, oh, if you'd just taken them 10 minutes later for sunset, that photo would have been much better. Or if you'd have just been brave enough to do this, or stand in a different place, or you might have got in that person's way, for 5 seconds, but that photo would have been worth it. I feel like I'm just kind of just pushing myself more to kind of expect more, hold myself to a higher standard.
Yeah, I think that sort of leads on to my worst thing, which is the fact that all my weddings have been pretty compressed. So there's been a lot of things, as there always is during the wedding season, to be quite honest, but a lot of things that I really wanted to do this year that I haven't got around to doing. One of the things is sorting that workflow out between the 12 months and the 6 weeks, which is like getting little bits sent out and little tips and tricks and stuff and trying to improve that. Because I think personally that my process is quite underwhelming. So like the whole process of leading up to the booking is like, oh, we have a call and like you get excited and stuff. And once they book, it's just an email going, well done, you've booked. And then like, that's it.
And nothing for say 9 months until you get a 6 week email.
So I'm trying to improve that. And I'm on my way to doing it. But like since the proper like mid-season has started, like I'd say like end of May, I've just been able to do nothing. And so that hasn't started. I've had a contract ready to sell. So I'm basically creating, I got my contract written by a solicitor and I've edited it in a way that I'm basically wanting to sell it to other videographers to help them out. And I've written a full-on guide for it, which is like explains each point and what it means and how it will protect you on the wedding day and after the wedding day and things like that. So that's all done, but I just haven't got around to like finalizing the formatting of the guide and then putting it on somewhere basically.
Making it available for the people to get to.
And it's one of those, I'm an advocate for, if you keep talking about doing it, just do it. So it really annoys me when I keep talking about doing something and just haven't done it.
But it's not through the want of trying, it's through physically not having enough time. So maybe I guess going forward, it's, as you're looking towards your 2024 calendar already, it's, maybe looking at, it's not just a level of now of seeing what inquiries come in, whether the couple's nice, the venue's nice, whether they're aligned with your brand. It's also going, well, how many jobs can I realistically take in a month in order to give that experience?
Before, and allowing time for admin as well. Just like, yes, I've got like 10 edits to do this week, but it's one of them's gonna have to wait till next week because I want Wednesday to do social media and like those little bits as well, like focus on, because you can't grow unless you give yourself time to grow.
No, you can't, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I'm saying maybe too hard now and don't cut myself enough slack, is that at the moment I've managed to keep to that 6-week editing turnaround, where I'm looking at my pile already now and seeing that, again, I shot a couple of doubles close together and thinking, well, this might have to stretch to the max of what I allow, which is 8 weeks. And I feel like I've failed in that moment. And I haven't. It's just not being so hard on yourself, going that you can't still keep to your spring and autumn deadlines when you are in the thick of your season.
100%. And people expect that as well.
Again, just having that mindset, or allowing to be kind to yourself to go, well, no, you have been really damn busy. And again, you need that time to recharge so that when you do go to the weddings, you're good enough. But at the same time, give yourself a realistic chance to succeed at the other end in the edit.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be busy during the summer, so your turnaround times are going to be more. I think people do expect it. We say to our couples, we have the tracker and everything, but we say to our couples, like, there is going to be a bit of a wait, and they say, we're getting married in July, of course there's going to be a wait, do you know what I mean? So and that is really nice. But yeah, if you are a videographer and you're interested in a contract, then let me know, because that might motivate me to put it on quicker, to be honest.
I'd definitely be interested in looking at it as a photographer as well. I'm sure there'll be some adaptable parts in there.
Yeah, so I sent it to Josh to have a look at, and he said he might adapt it to photography. So
like it would be a fairly easy wording change, but a lot of the key points and the kind of having it written in such an official way that it's kind of legally binding is huge. So
there's a lot of stuff like about creative control and like angles and like, if we recommend things and you say no and things like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's equally applicable to photo
exactly.
as well.
A lot of stuff that would be.
Wouldn't that be really incredibly useful?
So that'd be quite interesting, actually. Yeah, if we could.
So come on then, Chris, finish us on a high. What's your best thing so far about this year?
Best thing is this year, we mentioned it before, I'll mention it again, but like having the couples that are the right fit for us, genuinely want us for video and haven't just settled on us because we're cheap or we happen to be there. Like, we're getting on with them really well on a personal level. We don't become best friends with our couples, but on the day, like to have a really good, like, back and forth banter, whatever, it makes the huge difference. And I did put also that we'd booked in our highest. The last 2 bookings have been our highest bookings price-wise that we've booked. That's
a huge achievement.
But I think that's been now a trend for the last couple of months. Is it's been going up and up, which is I don't know. Yeah, it's been amazing. Every booking that comes in seems to be more and more, which is good because it's going to allow us the financial freedom for next year. Again, to do less weddings and focus on more.
Yeah, or go through all the things that we literally just said.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you can find that you're going to weddings and the people are more aligned to your values, you're not only getting paid more for those jobs, but you're having a better time.
Yeah.
And you walk away from the whole experience just feeling so much more like, and when we finish jobs and going, that didn't even feel like we've done a day's work.
Yeah, exactly.
We've literally come along, found people which are so similar or have such similar values to us. We've worked hard for them, but we're really kind of, you don't have to be their best mate or, and go out for romantic dinners for years afterwards, but to just kind of be in sync with them enough that you feel that you know them on the day.
Yeah.
They feel they know you and you are
and so
really
you're
are in
more
that
confident
moment.
To suggest things and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like having that, I feel like at some point at the end of February, March time, we got a lot of bookings and they were coming in up and they were picking our very lowest package, and some of them were even trying to haggle, which we just don't do at all. But we were finding that next year, we were looking at next year, like we've got the same amount of weddings, but a lot less money coming in. And I don't know what, maybe it was like a turnaround point in the financial, climate and stuff like that. But now we're finding the people are starting to book.
But you say that, though, but since we've started the pod, you've raised your prices, haven't you?
Yes, yeah. I raised them what I would call significantly, like in like March, April time. So I feel like, maybe that's helped, because when we were cheaper, people were booking the lowest prices. Now we've raised them. More people going for the higher package.
Well, I think it's a lot. It sounds bonkers. Like in a time that you could argue that there's a cost of living crisis or whatever, that to raise your prices seems a counterintuitive thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think that this is definitely we touched on this in kind of the pricing and finance episode, and there is another episode about kind of leveling up and stuff that will be down in the future. But pricing or kind of weddings are grouped in kind of budget kind of limits, and if you're on the edge of that kind of lower end budget, people are always going to be trying to pull you down. But once you kind of take a jump to the bottom end of that middle end, if you like,
yeah.
there's always people there which will want to take a chance on you and try and pull you up, and kind of it's almost jumping from from the baby splash pool into like the medium sized pool.
Yeah,
you're not throwing yourself in the deep end just yet, but you are leveling up.
I feel like there's definitely that grey area. Somewhere between like 1,700 and 2,200 around the area is like,
I firmly
is a
believe
dead
that.
area.
I've had a conversation with a few photographers like this that felt that they're worth more than the kind of 1,500 quid, which is kind of entry level now. I think it's all to be doing this as a job, you have to be charging that, but they don't feel that they're quite ready to jump into that 2.5 bracket yet. They've tried the area in the middle, and like I said, have been priced out of stuff by the 1,500 quid people budget, but then the people that are the $2,000 budget don't see that they're getting good value with them. But once they pull themselves up into that,
people starting to realise. I think that has made the difference, and definitely something to talk about in the pricing episode. I think is a grey area, and if raising your prices can actually get you more bookings.
I think it can. I think and some of it is, as British people, we're a UK-based podcast. That I feel like money talks are always a little bit taboo, or kind of in just kind of the ways around values of having money or charging more for your worth or having the confidence. We said this in previous podcasts that if you went to a job, you would actively look to get promoted over a period of years or expect to get a pay rise for inflation or for doing a good job. But it's almost having the kind of the foresight to go, no, I am doing a good job. I deserve a pay rise for me, and kind of giving yourself that.
And you don't have to look far on a wedding group or like a wedding group for couples to see someone say, "Oh, our photographer's so expensive," and then be like, "Oh, maybe I need to
But it still astounds me, and full credit to you if you've got to get in, if you're trying to get into the industry, you've got to do it any way you can. But I've seen, on odd groups, there's still people out there which are offering 2 photographers for a full day package for like £450.
Yikes.
And you think, how are you making money there? Like, you're not even doing yourself minimum wage.
No.
So
if you did one styled shoot, you could probably charge more than that after doing that styled shoot.
And that would alarm me as a couple to think, well, if it's too good to be true, like, how's that person going to ever be able to invest in quality equipment which costs thousands when they're only charging such a low point for their photography? And I know there are weddings happening which have tiny budgets, and weddings that have budgets far more than we'll probably ever earn in our lifetimes. But there's that. I find it crazy that you can hold yourself to a standard or believe that you are worth more. And it's, and it is possible. Like, we can sit here, and I'm not trying to be the success story or whatever, but, from both of us, but probably within the last couple of years, we're charging far less than we were worth. And it took us, a lot of soul searching or people telling us, within our industry that we were too cheap and to dare to charge more, that we can sit here now saying that we're probably having some of our happiest times in business and at the weddings we're shooting than we ever have,
because of our branding, because of how much we're charging, basically, because we're not undervaluing ourselves, isn't it? So that's the positive, is that
and I feel like
with
we're
good couples,
eking in now an hour and 20. I feel like
financial freedom, booking in higher and I say higher end, but like booking in more expensive weddings and making 2024 a good year coming forward as well, I think. And
I feel like much more aware of looking towards the future now. I'm feeling much more excited about the future in doing this, maybe than other years, going, am I going to get enough bookings? Am I going to be able to grow? Am I going to be able to afford that holiday again next year? Now I'm like, what can't I do in weddings?
Exactly. And because we're both doing some good weddings, we'll be seeing each other at Disney next year, won't we?
We definitely will. So we're both going
to Disney World
in January. But even also as well, I think half of the reason of feeling the way that we do, I still want to attribute back to starting the podcast and all of these people listening. Like, I've always tried to help everybody that I've met in weddings across the way, whether they're other photographers, lower than me, or meeting videographers that maybe started out, and tried to help people, and always given them the best of my knowledge as I knew how, and just to try and be a helpful person. But like we said at the start of this episode, to only be 10 episodes in and realising the things that we're saying or things that we've learned the hard way are making people that listen to this podcast not have to maybe spend as long as we did getting to where we are. I find
like a fast track, isn't it?
That is brilliant, and I would I'll happily give that knowledge away if it means that people can get there. And even just the rewardingness of doing this, or this gives me confidence that maybe we do know more than we think we do, and we are making a difference to people out there.
Even the things that we're not necessarily considering an educational episode ourselves, like some people will take something from it, like these little catch-ups and stuff. I think they can be quite motivational, and they have little tidbits in it that people might want to pick out. So
I think we're far from shooting A-listers and celebrity weddings. We're not at the pinnacle of what we do, but I think both of us have grown a long way, and hopefully there are people listening to this podcast that are just starting out in weddings, or are maybe having those those own kind of quarrels in their head about whether they should put their price up or whether they shouldn't. And if we can give you the kind of the encouragement that you should do that or you can do that, and maybe you could start to get reap some of the benefits and feeling as good as we are at this point of the season, then that's really worthwhile.
Agreed.
Amen. There we go.
That's been a hell of a long episode.
Hell of an episode. It had to be a bumper one for the 10th.
Yes.
I apologise again for my naughty whippets misbehaviour amongst it. Thank you so much to everyone who's listened so far. Both of our voices are going. I'm feeling exhausted. But yeah, like, subscribe, comment. Tell us your favourite moments in the last 10 episodes.
Yes.
The biggest takeaways for you guys. Or anything that you'd like to see coming in the future episodes as well.
We appreciate all of your messages. And yeah, if you've got any recommendations, any questions you want to ask on the podcast, just drop us a message. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.
Sweet.
See you in the next one. Yes, we made it, finally. And we didn't get the dog didn't go mad at the end. We finally got there.